All right, Dr. Rick. Some say that there was never a god in the ancient world named Molech, but rather Molech is a type of offering. Sorry for my bad pronunciation. I don't know Hebrew. Sometimes child sacrifice. So, what is your take?
Yeah, no, this is an important text and an important discussion, and we can go into a lot of detail about this. I do believe there was human sacrifice in ancient Israel, certainly in Canaan around it, and then the Bible attests to sacrifice in Israel. You have from the time of around the entrance into Canaan after the Exodus, you have this relief at of the then Canaanite city of Ashkelon on the coast of Canaan, and the Egyptians are attacking it in 1209 BC, and you have these people praying. They're lifting up their hands. They're praying to God. One is burning incense. There's an incense burner in Ashkelon because they feel they are doomed and they are trying to appease their God. And then you have these two strange, on either end of this kind of portrayal of the fort that they're on, are two adults, clearly adults. These are all adults at the top, hanging over the side of the walls, two much smaller figures who have been understood as children. And so, what we have described a couple times in the Bible, I think most clearly in 2 Kings 3, where it says that a young son was sacrificed by the king of Moab on top of his fort in the presence of the enemy armies, that they are sacrificing children as well here in their own way, because the picture doesn't make sense any other way. It's not like these young children are attempting to climb the walls. They're being held away from the walls as if they're about to be killed, basically. So I believe it did exist. You do have suggestions of it. You also have the Amman airport excavations in Jordan from the Iron Age, from the time of Israel as being a monarchy, that reveal infant bones that were there. You have the mention in later sources outside of the Bible and classical sources of not just the Canaanites and the equivalent, the Greek name for the Canaanites was Phoenician, and the name for the Greek or the successors of the Phoenicians were the Punics, the Punic people. And one of the greatest cities, Punic cities, was in North Africa called Carthage. And Carthage has been excavated, and they found what they call the Tophet, which is like a place for the sacrifice to God, to their God, setting on top of it. And in that Tophet, they found many animal burials in jars, in vases, the bones of the animal clearly being sacrificed, and as well thousands of infant burials, the same kind of jar, the same kind of burial, suggesting that these two, that children were sacrificed. Now, I mention this all as way of background because certainly, who is Molech or Molech? And in Phoenician, the word can mean a name of a type of sacrifice. But is that what it means in the Bible? Several times it seems to say that they worshiped Molech, they sacrificed their children to Molech. What is this? Well, the root, MLK in Hebrew means king, and it means that in Phoenician to rule, a ruler. And I believe that that is a name given to this figure who was the ruler or leader of the underworld to whom these sacrifices were made. We don't have a lot of description of Molech in terms of a sort of mythological story or biography or whatever of Molech. But what we do have is we have a number of people who have names that must be understood in such a way, I believe, from the Canaanite period, that are best understood as indicating that this was a god who was worshipped. Um, for example, Abdi Malik is the name of a god of a Canaanite city known during the 14th century BC. And that name also occurs in other contexts. And it means, the first part, Abdi, means servant, and Molech means servant of Molech. Now, this is not servant of the king, because sometimes there's an indication that this name is divine. It has a little what is in the language, in the script of that time, called a dingir sign, a god sign. It indicates this is a god. So Abdi Malek is the servant of the god Malek, and that's a name given. And we have lots of names like this: Abdi so and so, who is Abdiel, servant of the god Ale; Abdi Baal, Abdi Balu, servant of the god Baal; Abdi Chepat, who was the leader in Jerusalem, the Canaanite leader in the 14th century BC. Abdi Chebat, servant of the god Chebat, a North Syrian deity. But here we have this name, and I think it's a pretty certain evidence that there was such a god named Molech. And we have a number of Canaanite kings, even in the Bible, already when in Genesis 26, Abimelech, who is the king of Gerar there, he has a name meaning Molech is my father. It's a confessional name. Again, I believe it is preserved and is a name that suggests that he recognized, or at least his parents, whoever gave him that name, recognized that this was a god that they worshipped. So I think without question, there was a god named Molech, and I think that god is best seen as a god of the underworld, with sacrifices given to Molech, as suggested in the Bible by a number of the prophets and elsewhere who talk about this sort of sacrificing, particularly children, to Molech.